Good morning, everyone, and welcome to session number 5. In session 5, we are going to do An Old Woman by Arun Kolatkar. This is a poem written by Arun Kolatkar. This poem captures a simple encounter with a beggar woman near a shrine. So, this is the story. Okay. It's a powerful, thought provoking poem that explores poverty, age, human indifference, and spiritual awakening. Written in a conversational, free verse style, this poem captures a chance encounter between the narrator, likely a tourist or maybe a passerby, and a persistent old beggar woman near a hill temple. At the beginning of the poem, the old woman grabs the narrator's sleeve and refuses to let go. She insists he gives her a coin in exchange for showing him the way to the nearby horseshoe shrine. The narrator is mildly irritated and tries to ignore her, but she clings to him so stubbornly, driven not by force but by poverty and desperation. Here, Kolatkar uses his seemingly simple interaction to reflect on human insensitivity and the invisible suffering of marginalized individuals. The woman's persistence disturbs the narrator, but it also forces him to confront her reality. He observes her cracked skin, toothless mouth, and frail figure, images that are symbols of both physical decay and social neglect. So this is the gist I have given you about the poem. Now let us move on to the objectives. Let's see what are the contents we are going to do in this session. So let's see the objectives, outcomes, pre-reading questions which you can discuss in your classroom, some facts about the author, introduction to the text, themes, recap, and of course multiple choice just to check your comprehension skills. Now let us see the learning objectives. The objectives are to understand the life and works of Arun Kolatkar, to analyze the poem's theme, imagery, and symbolism, to explore how the poem highlights poverty, neglect, and empathy, and finally to reflect on how literature can make us more sensitive to social realities. Here, when we are understanding the theme of poverty and human dignity, we recognize how the poem portrays the struggles of marginalized individuals and the dignity they still retain in the face of adversity. So this is very important. You can see the picture of probably a mother and a daughter in a very helpless situation and in a very unhygienic condition. So next one is we should learn to interpret the symbolism and imagery in this poetic piece. So we will examine how the cracks around her eyes, bullet holes, and shattering hills and temples symbolize social breakdown and human suffering. So social breakdown and human suffering is symbolized in the face of the old woman. Her skin is cracked. She has a bullet hole like eyes, shattering hills, temples. So teethless gum. So these things symbolize the human suffering and breakdown. Next one is analyze the contrast between modernity and tradition. You can see in the picture here. So which will explore how the setting of hills, shrines and temples contrasts with the harsh reality of the old woman's condition. So the setting of hill, shrine and temple, it is contrasted with the condition of that old woman. Next, we will learn to appreciate Kolatkar as minimalist poet. So we will learn the simplicity in diction, imagery, which can powerfully communicate deep social messages. Lastly, we have to develop empathy through literature. This is one of the major objective where we reflect on personal attitudes towards beggars and marginalized people, fostering sensitivity and compassion. Next one is critically examine the speaker's transformation. Here we study the change in narrator's perception from irritation to realization and connect it to a broader human experiences. So in the beginning, the narrator is annoyed by the old lady when she grabs his sleeves and asks for money. But by the end of the poem, the narrator is sympathizing with the old lady. So this should happen. This is one of the major theme. So enhance skills of close reading and textual analysis. This is a totally technical part of how to read a poem. We have to identify the tone of the poem. We have to identify the imagery, metaphor and structural devices which deepen the literary interpretation. These are all poetic devices which will appear in all the poems which you have to learn here. Here we have a very simple poetic devices, imagery, metaphor we have, symbolism we have. So you should try to identify those things. Explore post-independence social economic context. Here we should understand how the poem reflects disillusionment in society where promises of equality and prosperity remained unfulfilled. See, after the independence, what is the socio-economic context we have here? So through poem, and this poem, this reflects the disillusionment that society promises the equality and prosperity, but here there is no equality and no prosperity at all. So this is also a major issue here. This poem connects literature with real life social issues. Relate the poem to contemporary issues of poverty, homelessness and social neglect. Here you can recall your experiences whenever you see some beggar woman or a handicap who is begging on the street, who is begging you, requesting you to give a single pie. So you can recall such incidents which has happened in your life and you can connect yourself with this poem. And you should encourage the reflective and creative response also, where students should inspire to write or discuss their own experiences, feelings and views on inequality and compassion. So of course all of us have experienced such incidents in our life. Somewhere or the other we might have met poor people, beggars, handicapped, one who is blind. So they might be asking money for you, they might be asking some help from you. So at that time what did you do? So try to write a small short poem with your own experiences. So after reading the poem, what will be the takeaway points? What will you take home? So what are you going to learn after reading this poem? So one is you should be able to explain the central theme. Central theme, almost in the objectives we have discussed many central themes. You should be able to discuss the socio-economic context. You should be able to analyze the speaker's change in attitude. You should identify and interpret literary concepts. You can also relate personal responses. As I said before, you can recall or you can discuss your own life experiences of the same incident with your classmates or your teacher. Differentiate between modernity and tradition. Explain the central theme. Demonstrate critical appreciation. Analyze the speaker's change in attitude. Let's come to some of the pre-reading questions. So before starting with this poem, let us ponder over some of the questions which you can discuss with your friends, classmates, and with your teacher. For example, when you see an old woman begging on the street, what emotions come to your mind? Discuss this in your class. How do you feel? Do you feel angry, or do you feel empathetic, or do you feel sympathetic, or do you just ignore those people, or do you just ignore an old woman who is asking for money? What do you do? What emotions comes to your mind? Do you think poverty affects people's dignity? Why or why not? If you feel it is not affecting people's dignity, then you should tell me why it is not affecting. If you say, of course, it is affecting the people's dignity, then you should be able to say, yes, why? So, have you ever felt uncomfortable when someone asked you for money or help? How did you respond? In your experience, somebody might have asked you money sometime in your lifetime. So, how did you feel when somebody asked you the money? Did you feel uncomfortable, or how did you respond to them? Did you give them the money, or you didn't give them the money? What was your feeling? Did you feel comfortable, or were you not comfortable? So, just respond to such questions. Why do you think elderly people, especially women, are often more vulnerable in the society? So, these questions will help you connect with the poem on a personal level. So, what images or feelings do you associate with hills, temples, and shrines? So, ponder over all these questions. You will feel that you will be connected to the poem. So in today's world, how do modernity and tradition coexist? Do you think one overshadows the other? Do you think that there is a modernity and also tradition which are coexisting in this society? So are they overshadowing each other? Just discuss. Do you believe literature and poetry can make us more sensitive to the struggles of marginalized people? Why? How does society generally treat people who are poor or aged? Is it fair? If you were in the place of the old woman in the poem, what would you do to survive? Imagine yourself in the place of that old woman. So, when you put your leg into somebody's shoes, you will know what they are feeling. So, just imagine yourself in the place of that woman, and do you think you can survive? What responsibilities do individuals and society have toward the elderly and marginalized? So, what are your responsibilities towards the elderly people in the society? Do you look after them well? Do you respect them? What are your responsibilities? So, just list out the responsibilities, what you can do for them. So, it may not be some stranger, even you can look after your grannies, your grandpas, or maybe your parents when they are quite old. So, how will be your response towards them? Just think about it. Now, we will move on to the next slide. This is about the author. So, this is a little about the poet. Arun Kolatkar, 1932 to 2004. Arun Kolatkar is a very important bilingual poet who wrote both in Marathi and English. He studied art in Mumbai and also worked in advertising as a graphic designer. Kolatkar poetry is known for its simplicity, wit, and surreal imagery. He combined local Indian settings with universal themes. His famous English poetry collection, Jejuri, won the Commonwealth Poetry Prize in 1976. He was also awarded the Sahitya Academy for his Marathi work, Bichki Wahi. Even though he lived in a reclusive life, Kolatkar remains one of the most influential modern Indian poets. He is known for his simplicity, wit, surreal imagery, and social commentary. So his works are Kala Ghoda poems, Sarpasatra, showing maturity and social awareness. So he is inspired by Marathi devotional traditions, European modernism, and American beat poetry also. So his legacy is, though he is reclusive, he remains one of the most influential modern Indian poets celebrated worldwide. Now the major part, that is introduction to the text. This poem is written by Arun Kolatkar, a noted bilingual Indian poet. Here he describes an encounter with poor old woman begging near a shrine. The speaker perhaps is a tourist here or a pilgrim. He is approached by an old woman begging near a shrine. At first, her persistence irritates him, but she holds his sleeves and asks for 50 paise coin. She promises him that she will show him the shrine. She will act as a guide. But gradually, as he looks into her eyes, he sees something deeper, that is poverty, desperation, and the reality of social neglect. The impact of cracks in her skin, in her eyes, in the hills, in the temple becomes the powerful symbol of social and cultural decay here. So, what begins as a personal irritation becomes a realization of larger truths about human suffering. So, the poem conveys themes of poverty, dignity, empathy, and social awareness. So, there are images also where the cracks in the eyes, hills, temples, that symbolizes social and cultural decay. So, some of the themes, let us see some of the themes of the, some of the themes of this poem. So, one is poverty and dignity. The old woman's struggle for survival shows how poverty stripes away dignity. Next theme is neglect of aged. That is, society often ignores the elderly, especially women. Next is modernity versus tradition. The old woman stands near a shrine symbolizing tradition, but her condition shows the failure of modern society. Next theme is empathy and realization. The speaker's change of heart shows the importance of human sensibility. In short, the poem asks us to look beyond irritation and comfort and to truly see the humanity of marginalized people. So let us have a quick recap. The theme is poverty, dignity, neglect of the aged, and clash of modernity versus tradition. Here the old woman is begging begging of the old woman represents poverty and social neglect. The cracks in her eyes in the temple symbolizes wider social decay. The poet's purpose is to make us pause, reflect, and empathize with the struggles of the marginalized. The speaker's journey is from irritation to realization, which is also the journey the poet wants the readers to take. So here the speaker changes. So in the beginning he was irritated, but now he realizes that woman is suffering. She is suffering. So let us see some of the MCQs. Who is the central figure in the poem An Old Woman? Of course, it is the old woman begging for money. What does the old woman initially ask the speaker for? She is asking for a 50 paise coin. What does the old woman promise in return for money? To take him to the horseshoe shrine. She wants to act as a guide to him. How does the speaker react to the old woman at first? He reacted with irritation and finality. What does the tightening of the old woman's grip symbolize? Her desperation and helpless persistence. So these are some of the 5 MCQs. Here you can see in the picture, by the end of the poem, the narrator, the speaker is very much sympathized, empathized with the old woman. So thank you for listening. Arun Kolatkar, An Old Woman, is a simple yet powerful reminder that poetry is not just about beauty and rhythm. It is also about truth, empathy, and social awareness. The next time you see someone marginalized or neglected, remember this poem and try to see the cracks in the society that it reflects. So thank you all for listening. We will meet in the next session, that is session 6. Thank you all.